Hello, welcome to Skye Sweaty Record Review, the only new music review show on YouTube hosted by a French professor immediately after getting off the gym. Off the elliptical, at the gym. Also, I don't rehearse, and I don't edit. It's fast, quick, one-time listen, one-time review. So, today I'm going to be reviewing something called Public Memory. The name itself is fairly pretentious, and I think if you were to criticize this band, that word might come into it. But I'm not going to criticize this band very much. I enjoyed this album a lot. It's called Demolition. It turns out it's mostly one guy, Robert Tahor, I don't know how to pronounce it, who I guess lives in Brooklyn, and I won't hold that against him. Usually when I read the bios and it says they're from Brooklyn, I just get an immediate negative reaction. But I don't know. That's a weird prejudice. Oh geez, am I getting a rash there? What's that? New on Skye Sweaty Record Review. I get a rash. Okay, well, I'm going to keep on moving. So, in general, I talk a lot about listening to the first track of an album. That's because when I listen, I usually don't know the names of any of the bands or what they do, so I just kind of scan through and I listen to the first track. And sometimes that's deceiving. Last episode, I reviewed It Looks Sad, and the first track was really kind of cool and vapor-wavy, and I thought it was going to be this awesome album in this one genre, and then it kind of switched, and I ended up being kind of disappointed. This is not that way. As a matter of fact, I'm going to review the entire album, it's a 40-minute album, by just analyzing the first track. The track is called The Line, and it is exemplary of what makes this, I believe it might even be a great album. I mean, my policy is only to listen once, but my initial reaction is very positive. And I say that because it makes me want to listen more. This song, like the rest, has a lot of interesting texture. There's a lot of times where he'll weave in a sort of melody that escapes and then comes back, and it'll be, I think of it as a blurry melody, if that makes sense. It's not bright and shiny and right in your face. It's sort of in the background. And sometimes he'll save that melody for 3/4 of the way through a song, or 5/8 of the way. I don't actually know the math of what he does. He can tell me that. So that's the kind of faith I have in this album being great. It comes from just this first track and the fact that it's so consistent throughout. What he does on the first track, he does on the rest. Now this one is a little distinctive because it has jingle bells in the beginning, and that immediately made me start thinking of listening to OK Computer for the first time in '97. And there is definitely a sort of 90s electro rock hybrid feeling from this album, in a good way. Like British, if you told me this came out in England in 1999, I would be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And that's a pretty high compliment. I would say it's actually much closer to Portishead than to Radiohead. I'll get into that as we go on. But this first track has a good solid drum beat, and every track on the album has a good solid drum beat. It's not always an acoustic drum line. Sometimes it's an electric drum line. Actually, it might always be an electric drum line. I can't quite tell. But it's really nice. It's like a nice sort of, the beat, the drum beat is kind of behind the beat of the song, so you kind of, so you're a little bit behind things as opposed to right on top of them, which gives it a nice laid-back feeling. I don't know if I'd say laid-back. Actually, that's not a good word at all, because the album is very foreboding, actually. It's very dark, but not nihilist. It's a lot like a Portishead album. You listen to it and you kind of go, ooh, that was kind of sad, but it's not depressing. It's just kind of atmospheric. He does a thing where I believe every song, at the very end, you've had one drum beat go along, and then at the end something else happens. And in this case, he brings in a little polyrhythm, he brings in another percussion instrument, I think, and he kind of throws it in there. And every track you can kind of listen, it's like a formula. There's a public memory formula. We start off with a drum beat and kind of a haunting melody, and then at the end he'll throw in some extra melody that blurs around, and then the drum beat gets a little bit confused, and then the song ends, which is a great formula, especially if you're trying to be into an atmosphere of a song and just have it as kind of the background, it works. But then if you have your headphones on and you're trying to listen to some good musicianship and good composition, it works for that as well. God, I like this album. That sounds really okay. Well, good. In general, it's very gritty instrumentation. Has maybe even grimy. I don't know. Is there a difference? I'm being too precious. My one issue would be the singing. Now, the first 3/4 of, I'm doing a lot of fractions today. The first 3/4 of the album, I was like, what is the name of this singer? What is her name? I was like looking up on, I was on the elliptical, and I was looking up on Pitchfork, like trying to get old reviews, and I'm trying to see the Bandcamp, and I'm trying to see if he has a Wikipedia page, like, what's the name of this female singer? By 3/4 of the way through, I realized there is no female singer. It's just him. And he's singing like this, with lots of echo in the back. So it sounds a lot like Beth Gibbons, like of Portishead, in a good way, except it's a little too far behind. I don't think I understood a single word of any of the songs. Like, it was all, like, the vocals were just there so that you don't feel like you're listening to an instrumental album, which I appreciate, because I don't really like instrumental albums usually. But that was kind of a drawback. The one exception to that is a track called Mercy. Am I right? I'm looking at my notes. Yes. One-page notes. That's nice. Mercy, you can hear him very clearly say, "Grab me by the throat." And a couple other lines like that. That's actually a pretty good song. If you have to listen to a second track, and I would advise listening to the whole thing, but if you have to listen to a second track to see if you like it, I'd listen to Mercy. It has this beautiful production with this snap sound that like comes out of the headphones. It's it's got it really pops out from the rest of the kind of gritty soundscape. So there it is. There's the album Demolition by Public Memory. If I had to give a 3-word review, oh boy. I would call it layered, blurred, and beautiful. Yeah, I'd say that. The blurred indicates a little bit of my little hesitation about it. I'd maybe like a little bit more definition in an album. I would say it's like a great, like if you're going to go on a long train ride, put this thing in. I could see just sitting on the train and just listening to this and kind of having the songs blend into each other and the lyrics in the background. Or maybe even like a fireplace. Like a fireplace and you're grading papers. Can you tell I'm thinking about doing that soon? I could imagine listening to that. So that's what I would say about it. Public Memory, Demolition. A nice surprise, actually. After my frustration of the last one, I was quite happy. Oh, and also stay tuned. Sweatshirts. That's what I'm calling you, my fans. My sweatshirts. If I have fans. What do you think? Do you like that name? Comment in the like section below. I'm going to be releasing my first ever concert review. I saw Bob Dylan last night, and I want to talk about it. So look for that on your feed. I'm going to record that right now. As far as my trivia, ESPN, the magazine. And as far as the weird thing that I saw while watching the TVs at YMCA, it just said turkeys, like the Pilgrims ate. Oh, there's the camera.